Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben, the award-winning gardening podcast as voted for by the Grow Your Own magazine and by my followers and by my listeners. I hope that you have all clicked that subscribe button. If you're new to the podcast channel, please do click the subscribe button and then you get notified of all the new podcasts that get launched. And if you're not following me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok, make sure you look for Gardening with Ben and follow me on all my social medias. So sit back, relax, grab a brew and let's enjoy today's gardening podcast with Ben. Hello everyone and welcome back to Gardening with Ben. We are here for the second episode in a row. Yes, the podcasts are well and truly back, so make sure you tune in every single day for a new podcast episode. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode where we talked all about what we've been getting up to and where we've been hiding and what things we have been purchasing for the allotment. And I've been out today purchasing some stuff as well. I really shouldn't have gone out on my lunch break today, but I have got some more stuff for the allotment and I've still got a few more things to get for the plot at the moment, but we'll see how we get on with that. So make sure you stay tuned and listen in to see what we've been purchasing later on in the week. But we are back with our 2 episodes for the next 2 days, talking about what jobs need to be done in the garden in May, and then tomorrow's episode will be talking about what seeds and what plants we can plant in May as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that episode. If you haven't clicked that subscribe button, get it clicked now and then you'll get notified when a new podcast is uploaded. So in this episode we're going to talk about all the jobs which need doing in the garden and allotment in May. And if you've got a pen and paper, make a note of them or listen back to the episode again later on to make sure that you get all these jobs ticked off and keep your gardens and allotments looking absolutely fantastic. I know I certainly make a list and try and get them all ticked off, and I'm certainly keeping up with them. I'm definitely keeping on top of everything this year, and that goes down to making lists of jobs which need doing and then getting them ticked off as I've got through them. And that's why I think I'm so far ahead this year, because I've done so well on how well I've got on with them. So usually we talk about what needs to be done in the vegetable garden, what needs to be done in the fruit garden, and what needs to be done in the flower garden. So first off, we're going to start talking about all the jobs which need doing in the vegetable garden. So the first on the list is asparagus. That usually starts growing at this time of year, and what you need to do is you need to make sure that the spears don't grow too big on them. Just keep trimming them and pruning them off to have with your meals. And the more you prune them, the more they'll keep growing. So don't let them get too long and just keep pruning them off for your meals. Yeah, asparagus, it's certainly expensive to buy in the supermarket, so if you can grow it yourself, why not? Next up are broad beans. So as your broad beans start to appear on the plants, pinch the tops off them. This will stop the infestation of the black flies appearing all over your broad beans, because that is one thing that certainly happens to a lot of broad beans. The black flies just come in and love them, and also it helps them to grow out bushier as well and produce more beans within the plant. And obviously the more you harvest them, the more they will keep producing those broad beans. Garlic. Make sure you keep your garlic weed free. Don't let it fight against the weeds for the nutrients in the soil and the water. Keeping them weed free will help get some fantastic crops and produce some fantastic garlic. Peas. As your early peas are starting to grow, I just planted mine the other day, so I don't need to do this bit yet, but as they start to grow, make sure that they're kept supported. I've put chicken wire up against behind all mine, and as they start to grow, they'll start to cling on to that chicken wire. Just give them that little bit of helping hand sometimes and tie them to the chicken wire or to the netting and keep them supported, because you don't want them snapping and damaging the plant. Potatoes, they'll start to pop out of the ground now, the plants, and as they do start to pop out, make sure you keep earthing them up. Cover that top of the plant up with soil, because if the frost still comes, which it can do at this time of year, it will scorch the top of the plants and turn it black. They will still grow back again, but you don't want to damage the plant whatsoever. So keep earthing them up as they pop through the ground. Onions, like garlic, make sure you keep them weed free, because again, they don't like fighting for the nutrients in the soil. But be careful, because the roots are very shallow in onions, so don't go too close to the plants with the hose, because you'll damage the roots on the onions. Just try and keep up with getting those weeds out. Whenever you spot one, just grab it and pinch it out. So if you're going to be growing outdoor vegetables, you need to start hardening them off now. Start letting them being outside for a bit during the daytime, and then fetching them back in at night, getting used to that warmer weather, and hopefully enjoying it. And hopefully by the end of the month, the chance of frost will have passed, and you'll start getting them out in the ground and getting them growing, and that's when the good times start to begin. So weeding is the last main thing for the vegetable garden. Make sure you keep on top of the weeding. If you keep on top of it, you will be able to keep the weeds down. The best advice is just go around once a week, hoeing all your beds in between your plants. If you do that once a week, you will keep on top of them weeds, and the weeds won't win and they won't take over. You will win the battle against the weeds. I know you're just taking the tops off a lot of them, but that will keep the weeds down. So just going over your beds once a week, hoeing them, and keep them weeds down. And the vegetables don't like to fight against the weeds. The weeds more often than not win against the vegetables. So make sure you keep them weeds down, and you will get some fantastic crops growing on the allotment and in the garden. So next up are all the jobs which need doing in the fruit garden. And if you're wanting a good crop of fruit, which definitely pays for the allotment, if you've got a good fruit orchard, you definitely want a lot of fruit off your plants. So you're going to make sure you want to do these tips to help get the best produce from them crops as possible, because the fruit will start flowing from the end of May onwards, with all the strawberries and raspberries coming along. So if you're growing an apple tree, what you need to do is hang up a pheromone trap to reduce the codling moth, which nests in the apple trees, and it helps trap them, obviously. If you've got any fruit bushes, make sure you start to cover these now with netting, because they'll start producing fruits. Your gooseberries, your black currants, your red currants, any currants, make sure you net them over to stop the birds from eating them all. That's if you don't want the birds to eat them. If you want the birds to eat them, feel free to leave them unwrapped so that they can enjoy the delights. Fruit trees. If you have planted new fruit trees, keep them watered in the first year and get them growing. They need to root in the first year. So if they're starting to produce blossom on the tree, remove the blossom and the fruit from the first year trees. You'll encourage the fruit tree to grow more in the first year. So again, if you planted a fruit tree, make sure you take off the blossom in the first year and keep it really well watered and get it rooted and growing really well. Again, if you're growing a plum tree, hang up a pheromone trap to reduce the codling moth. Rhubarb. You should now be able to start picking your first crop of rhubarb. Only ever pick 2/3 of the rhubarb off the plant. Do not pick it all at once, as this will stress the crown out. Always leave at least 1/3 on the rhubarb when you're picking it, and then you'll keep getting great crops on it. And every time you go to the allotment, just give it a bucket of water. You won't do any damage to it. Just keep giving the rhubarb plenty of water, and you will get some fantastic crops from it, because rhubarb is mainly made up of water. So just keep giving it a good drink of water every time you go to the allotment or in the garden, on a daily basis if needs be. You won't damage the plant whatsoever. So if you're growing strawberries, make sure that these are now protected by placing the straw under the fruit. You may always want to net them over as well, which will stop the birds from eating them, because they will start pinching them as they start growing, and towards the end of the month they will start fruiting the strawberries. So make sure you do keep them netted over, because the birds will be in there, mice, rats, the lot. They'll all come and they'll all start trying to pinch those delicious produce. And obviously the straw stops the slugs from getting to them as well. So that is all your tips on what you need to do in the fruit garden. So last but not least is all the tips for the Mayflower garden. And these are the tips that I really need to keep up with, because this year is the first year that I'm going so well out with growing flowers in my allotment. If you've seen the updates on how well it's looking at the moment and all the things that I am planting, I need to learn all these as well. So right, if you are growing Aubrietia, trim this back this month to encourage new growth on the plant this year. So if you're growing Aubrietia, trim it back this month to encourage new growth on the plant this year. Clematis, prune any old dead wood off your clematis this month. Again, that will encourage new growth this year on the plant. Dahlias, harden off your dahlia tubers this month before planting them out, ready to start growing. Fuchsias, if you're wanting to take some cuttings from your fuchsias, this is the month to take cuttings from your plant. This is the perfect month to get them cuttings going. So if you're wanting to get some more fuchsia plants for free, which is always a bonus, take some cuttings this month and get them growing. Hanging baskets. If you're wanting to grow some hanging baskets in your garden, this is the month to start planting them up. However, you will need to take them inside at night if the temperature drops to coldness. Make sure you keep an eye on the Met Office website. Keep checking the temperatures at night, because frost can still come. Never cast a clout till May's out. That is the old saying, what a lot of people say. So make sure you keep an eye on them temperatures at night before planting anything that is tender and can be affected by the frost out, as you certainly don't want to kill your hanging baskets off. It only takes one blast of coldness at night, and then you'll need to get all new plants because you'll have killed them off with the frost. Lavender. Trim back lavender this month to encourage new growth this year. So if you're growing lavender, trim it back, and this will encourage new growth growing on them lavenders. Roses. Make sure that roses are tied up and supported, especially climbing roses. Now, last year was the first year I planted my climbing roses, so hopefully this year they will get growing and they'll get going, and hopefully grow around my orchards as well. And I'm going to keep feeding them as well on a regular basis to hopefully get some fantastic roses on them this year and some fantastic displays, so we'll have to watch out for them, as I want those to be a really good pinnacle of my allotment and get some fantastic displays on the plot. Sweet peas. If you're growing those in your allotment and garden, which I definitely am, I've got all mine planted outside, start to tie these up now, and this will encourage them to grow using the netting, which will help support them, because the sweet peas do get top heavy. When the flowers start to grow on the sweet peas, they'll start to get heavy, and as they start to produce the flowers, keep trimming them off and putting them in a vase in the house. Give them away to friends and family. The more you take the flowers off, the more they will keep producing the flowers. If you leave the flowers on, they will go to seed, and the sweet peas will think that it's end of season and not to start growing anymore, and they'll just stop producing flowers. So you need to keep picking them flowers off the sweet peas on a regular basis to keep them flowering all year. And if you keep doing that, you will be able to keep getting flowers off it all the way up to October. So keep doing that and you will get some fantastic displays, and they smell absolutely beautiful as well. Yes, they don't last a long time in a vase, but they smell beautiful, and if you're picking them on a daily basis or every couple of days, you will have flowers all the time. So there's no need to worry about running out of flowers and them dying off in the house. So that is all your tips on what you need to do in the fruit garden, the flower garden, the vegetable garden. So I hope you've enjoyed it all, and yeah, please do share it on your Instagram stories. If you're listening on Spotify, you just click the share button and click the Instagram button, and it'll share it to your story as well, and let your followers and all your fans listen to it as well, and hopefully get some fantastic tips from it. And if you've enjoyed it, send me a message, or if you've got any questions, feel free to send me a message on Instagram itself via a message. So if you are a new follower to this podcast, make sure you do click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all our podcasts. We will be back tomorrow with tomorrow's episode, talking all about what seeds to plant in May and what plants you can start planting outside. So make sure you stay tuned for that episode. Until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcasts. Thank you for listening to today's Gardening with Ben's podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do click that subscribe button, and feel free to share it as well on your Instagram stories. All you have to do if you're listening on Spotify is click the share button, and you can share it straight to your Instagram story for all your followers to listen to, and help build my listeners up as well and get more people listening to it. Feel free to check out all my social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok. Yes, I'm on TikTok. Go check it out. Check out my dancing. Gardening with Ben. And check out the link as well in the description of this podcast, where you can check out my gardening t-shirt shop, where I sell funny t-shirts with all different funny logos and designs on. And feel free to support me by purchasing one, and all the money obviously goes back into my allotment, where I can share more gardening tips with you all. So until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening, and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcasts.